Uchiha Madara, one of the most iconic names in Naruto. Yet despite his well-established presence in anime discourse, Madara discussions tend to be kind of unpleasant to me. So many discussions of Madara only really focus on his build-up, his rawness, his pure dominance as a character. But that perception of Madara is what has largely caused the discourse to be unappealing to me. So much of it is wrapped up in fan discussions about power scaling or repeated misinformation about why Kishimoto chose to get rid of him so abruptly. And the source of this attitude among many of those who finish Naruto is how Madara loses. It appears to me that people simply wanted Madara to be the mighty final villain, who only falls as a result of clashing with the even mightier protagonist. But that doesn't happen. Madara goes out with a whimper, losing to a background character in Black Zetsu, before being replaced with Kaguya, an entirely new character. I think people resent a character they thought was cool being anything but at the end of their story, and thus attribute it to either a major error or some plot on the part of the author to sabotage a character too powerful for even him to handle. But Madara's conclusion was always what made him stand out to me. Yes, I love the cocky, powerful aura Madara has throughout the war arc, but Kaguya, setting Sasuke aside of course, simply makes for a better final antagonist in my opinion. But why is this the case? What is Madara? Why did he end up the way that he did? And what did Kishimoto accomplish by choosing this ending? The reason I find Madara so fascinating as an antagonist is because his story demonstrates that he is simply wrong to be Naruto's final antagonist, and that his unceremonious defeat is instead the perfect conclusion for his character. If I had to sum up Madara with one word, it would be arrogant. Madara is supremely confident due to his exceptional power and intelligence. However, he isn't perfect. Far from it actually. Madara's plan was to have Obito guide Nagato towards the infinite Tsukiyomi, gather the Biju, and have Nagato revive Madara so that he could step in and complete his plan. But well, none of this goes correctly at all. By the time Madara is revived, every member of the Akatsuki, save for Obito and Zetsu, are dead. Nagato did indeed use the art of rebirth, but on fallen Konoha civilians, not Madara. Madara awakens in the middle of a war that he did not plan, he's an Edo Tensei Zabi instead of a live person, and an unknown snake man is conversing with him, not Obito. He's understandably confused and a bit annoyed by his circumstances, constantly showing disappointment at the inability of his followers to successfully follow his plan. From the get-go, this shows Madara to be just as flawed as any other human. I do not see how one could consider Madara to be the perfect shinobi when he essentially lucks into being revived by an ally he had no idea would even exist. Furthermore, the manner of his revival wrecks his control over the situation by giving Obito the upper hand in their relationship, since Madara needs Obito to sacrifice himself to bring rebirth him now. Madara believed that he could simply control Obito through the seal he put on Obito's heart. But Obito knew about that, and had Kakashi remove it for him. Completely outside of Madara's expectations, Obito becomes the Ten Tails host instead of him. But Madara again lucks out, as Naruto and Sasuke defeat the Six Paths powered Obito, allowing Madara to finally take back control of the situation. This is not to denigrate Madara. His strength and quick planning allow him to turn unfavorable situations into his advantage constantly, but the simple point is that he isn't perfect. He is but a man, unable to control entire situations. He can't even control Obito, his one ally. Madara was arrogant from the start, telling Hashirama that he had moved past him due to a superior knowledge of the world and plans for the far future. Because Madara is human, this flaw follows him all of his life. This is one reason why Madara cannot be the final villain. Madara believes that human existence creates contradictions, love causing hate, and peace only existing because of war. But beyond that, Madara believed that he could rise above all that, guiding humanity to true peace as a savior, as a god. But Madara isn't a god. In my last video on recognition, I discussed the themes of identity and how Nagato, Kabuto, and Obito realize their identities and humanity rather than clinging to false personas. Madara displays the same characteristics as these characters before their awakenings. It is fitting that Madara battles Naruto and Sasuke, two characters confident in their identities and receiving the blessing of the Sage of Six Paths, who recognizes their self-assurance with power. Emphasizing this dynamic is the fact that Obito gives Naruto the pieces of the Biju Naruto needs to summon that Sage's spirit, and Kabuto gives Sasuke the Hashirama cells necessary for him to do the same. Two characters who were brought back to their true identities by Naruto and Sasuke individually early in the arc come back to help them prove to Madara that he too is not a god or anything besides Madara. This explains why Naruto and Sasuke are a good match for Madara, but not why he can't be the final villain. I find that the answer to this question is that Madara believes himself to be more important than he actually is. Were Madara to be the final villain of the series, it would justify his actions. Making him out to be the ultimate opponent would affirm him as something special, if not a god, then at least the devil. And Madara does not deserve that. He does not deserve to die thinking that he had any higher purpose, or was the ultimate manifestation of anything. He was simply an arrogant man, who flew too close to the sun and got burned. Instead, the final villain should be one who naturally has the power and status to claim the title Madara wanted so badly. The non-human who truly feels like a god compared to Shinobi, Kaguya. But there is another reason that Kaguya is more fitting to be the final villain than Madara. Madara's arrogance causes him to misunderstand the history of Shinobi and his role in it. Madara understood that chakra was meant to be a linking power before it was misappropriated by humans, but his solution to this problem is entirely incorrect and contradictory. Madara blames chakra as the source of all these problems because he finds that power leads to people seeking out conflict. But when you look at it, Madara is the one who seeks battle more than anyone else. He plays around with the Shinobi forces, he toys with the Gokage, and he is excited by the prospect of facing Hashirama once again. Yet he arrogantly believes that he has standing to lecture humankind about conflict. He's slaughtered hundreds to get where he is, and he's enjoyed every second of it. Not only this, Madara believes that as one with the most chakra, he is tasked with leading the world to a peaceful world without chakra. If chakra is evil and to blame, then as one with so much chakra, the most power, Madara is less fit to guide the world than anyone. Madara is himself only gaining this power and chakra by absorbing the power of the Ten Tails and Divine Tree. The truly powerful one, by his own definition, is not him, but the one he is borrowing power from, Kaguya. Moreover, Madara is completely wrong about Shinobi and chakra. Throughout the war arc, Naruto uses his chakra to connect to others. He connects to Kurama, he connects to the Biju, the Shinobi forces, his father, Sasuke, even Obito. Through both conflict and mediation, Naruto makes connections to people as a shinobi throughout the entire series. Madara believes that the history of shinobi is essentially worthless. People are just trapped in a sorrowful cycle that they will never ever escape. But we've seen how the lives and deaths of shinobi move the world ever closer to peace. It was through the actions of those like Minato, Jiraiya, Itachi, and Hiruzen that descendants capable of bringing the world forward were cultivated. In Madara's time, there was only war. Then, when he formed Konoha, there was simply intimidation based on the threat of violence, not true peace. But when Madara revived at the beginning of the war, he faced an allied shinobi army. All 5 Gokage teamed up and faced him. Events that he likely would have called impossible during his life were playing out in real time, as a despised Jinchuriki connected everyone together. How can Madara be trusted to lead the world, to be the savior, when he could not recognize this truth about the shinobi world, the potential for hope? More importantly, how could Madara be the answer, when he is merely a product of the problem? Madara despaired over the fate of shinobi, the short-sightedness, and the duality of the world that caused people to become sacrifices. But he exhibits those same problems. He saw the flaws of Hashirama's ideology, which caused him to view the village as more important than saving the lives of the children themselves, but he had no problem killing Sasuke, who Tobirama noted reminded Madara of his younger brother Izuna. Madara started down this path trying to protect the young and his Uchiha brethren, but he was willing to sacrifice this in order to achieve his goals, just like Hashirama. If peace caused by a dream world is a lie, so is peace caused by the sacrifices Madara claimed he wanted to avoid. Madara could never rise above the methods of the system he despised because it was all he ever knew, and he was too arrogant to ever reflect and reform his way of thinking. No, the final villain of Naruto needed to be a representation of this system, not another example of its failings. Madara is simply the same as Obito or Kabuto, but Kaguya is different. Kaguya is the wheel that turned history in the shinobi world, as Black Zetsu takes credit for manipulating Madara and current events as all a part of a grandiose plan to revive her. Black Zetsu relied on the cyclical nature of the reincarnates in order to do this, a repeating history of pain, hatred, and failure on the part of humanity. By defeating Kaguya, Naruto and Sasuke would be defeating the cycle of hatred itself, the source of the ever-repeating system of despair that shinobi endeavored to escape. Madara's lack of understanding of himself, history, and the purpose of shinobi disqualify him from being as important as he believes himself to be. Madara, in not knowing of Black Zetsu, the reincarnates, and Kaguya, had a blind spot that allowed him to be betrayed in the end. This brings us to our second question. Why did he have to go out so pitifully? The answer to this lies in what we established earlier. Madara deserved to be betrayed in such a manner because he arrogantly rushed forward with a plan he did not fully understand. But there is more to it than this. Madara deserved to vanish because he was a ghost who shamed the title of shinobi by refusing to trust others or cultivate a worthy successor. One of Naruto's most important themes is the importance of cooperation. Madara read the words of the Sage of Six Paths, that true power comes from opposite forces coming together, but Madara incorrectly saw it as a sign that he should seize all power for himself, rather than cooperate with others. Naruto and Sasuke prove him wrong. They are the sun and the moon, two people of opposing personalities who are able to work together to fight. Their combination jutsu, for example, are far stronger than simply the force of adding them together, and their individual strengths complement each other. Their battle with Madara itself is a case study of this idea. When they face off, Naruto has Sage of Six Paths ninjutsu, and Sasuke has One-Eyed Rinnegan. Madara notes that he has both of these abilities. Naruto could sense the Limbo clones, and Sasuke could see them, but Madara could do both. If Madara was correct, he should have won, but instead he is very easily dismantled. Naruto and Sasuke quickly put him on his back foot, causing him to retreat and steal the second Rinnegan from Obito out of desperation. Naruto and Sasuke proved that Madara was wrong, that cooperation among shinobi was not only possible, but incredibly potent. This is the end of their battle, but Madara refuses to admit defeat. Similar to how Madara cheated death with the Rinnegan and attempted a perverted version of passing down his will through creating Black Zetsu after he lost to Hashirama, Madara seeks to extend his life again by securing the second Rinnegan from Obito. Naruto and Sasuke have proven that the history of shinobi is not pointless conflict, and they are ready to prove its true meaning by defeating Kaguya, the force that set shinobi history in motion. But Madara is not ready to go away quietly. He truly believes that he is above man and must lead them, so he is simply removed, bluntly. Naruto explained that a shinobi's way of life and death is what displays their value. The manner in which a shinobi dies is consistently important, because it is in death that shinobi pass along their will to the next generation, that they might get closer to fulfilling it. Because Madara insists on being a god instead of a shinobi, he is not given the honor of falling to shinobi. Instead, being taught a lesson about humanity by an entity that really was in control of everything. So Madara deserves a dishonorable defeat because of his lack of respect for shinobi history. But why did he have to lose to Black Zetsu, not Kaguya? The answer to that final question lies in Madara's past and his relationship with Obito. Going back to his origins, Madara's blind spot is that he never believed or trusted in anyone other than himself. He can never allow anyone to have his back or walk behind him. It is well known that, as a child, Madara could not even pee if there was someone in his shadow, a symbolic joke about his main flaw. Madara manipulates and controls people because his arrogance is tied to his mistrust in others' abilities. Madara constantly comments about how Obito is an inferior version of himself, or how Black Zetsu was a degraded version of his will. And why would Madara trust anyone? His clan betrayed him, Tobirama betrayed the Uchiha, and the one person he did connect with, Hashirama, did not have his back in the end, deciding to respect village politics rather than support his friend. And given the choice to try to rescue his friend, Hashirama decided to kill Madara and protect the village instead. Madara has deep-seated trust issues, such that he only sees others as threats or pawns. He doesn't allow Obito to borrow his name just because it will give him credibility, or because he really believes in Obito. He clearly sees Obito as inferior. No, he gives Obito his name because he sees him as a temporary stand-in for himself. Even more, he claims that all those who pursue his ideals are Madara, refusing to recognize their individuality and instead seeing them as simply lesser versions of himself. He gave Nagato his Rinnegan, but he did not truly entrust him with completing his plan. He only saw Nagato as a vehicle to revive him. By not cultivating his successors, Madara did not allow them to grow strong. He explains to Obito that he simply created his path for him. But Naruto showed Obito that the truly strong navigate their own path through turmoil, rather than taking an easy path that someone else sets out for them. The reason why the shinobi today are capable of defeating Madara is because they were properly groomed by their predecessors, who wanted them to grow on their own. Because Madara does not even attempt to properly groom any successors, he can only rely on himself. And to do that, Madara conjures the physical manifestation of his will, Black Zetsu. Or at least that's what Madara thinks. Because Black Zetsu is not Madara's will, it is Kaguya's will. Madara rebels, and revealing to Obito that he was the one who set up Rin's death. He mocks Obito for believing that he can manipulate others while being immune to manipulation himself. He views himself as the savior, the only one he can trust. But Kaguya, who is herself from the stars, brings her back to Earth. Black Zetsu himself reminds Madara of his words, of how a human should never truly believe that they are above manipulation. Madara was being played from the start. He built his entire ideology and life's plans on the message displayed on the Uchiha Shrine, without ever considering that what he was being told was a lie. In reality, Madara was simply walking along the path that Black Zetsu set out for him. This is because Madara did not trust any successor, did not properly pass down his will as a shinobi should. Had Madara tasked Obito and Nagato in truth and stayed dead, Black Zetsu would not have been able to bring Kaguya back as easily. It is possible that Obito and Nagato would even have been defeated by Naruto, similar to what happened in reality, and changed to achieve Madara's goals through their belief in Naruto. But that is not what happened. Instead, Madara's will stopped existing when, instead of passing it down properly, Madara allowed it to be corrupted into something that would destroy him. This arrogance and failed will is why Madara is destined to lose. Madara being betrayed by what he believed to be a manifestation of his own will is the most fitting metaphor for what caused his defeat. Whether you like Black Zetsu or not, his presence in Madara's defeat is crucial to understanding the failures of his character and the point of his story. In effect, Kaguya successfully did what Madara believed he could do, creating Black Zetsu to revive her. She sought to create her own false peace, reliant on her having all of the power, all of the chakra. Naruto and Sasuke, in defeating her, show that the correct way to unify chakra in order to bring about the power to create true peace is to unify people. To me, the difference between Kaguya and Madara is in their identities. Kaguya is an Otsutsuki, who therefore only understands the world through the lens of power and wants it for herself alone. Madara, on the other hand, is a shinobi, a descendant of those who seek peace through determined struggle. Both prove that absolute power corrupts absolutely. But Madara betrayed his nature as a shinobi by seeking an Otsutsuki path to peace. Kaguya was not in contradiction with her identity the same way Madara was, as her pursuit of the chakra fruit and eternal existence is what Otsutsuki do. Kaguya will fail because Naruto and Sasuke prove that the legacy created by the cooperation and understanding between shinobi is superior to the lack of will and lack of endurance that Otsutsuki display in their solo pursuit of power. Black Zetsu is that will, the will of Otsutsuki, will that cannot grow, cannot be anything when it is not attached to its creator. It is why this time, there is no plan to revive Kaguya. This time, both Kaguya and her will are sealed, leaving no successors, because shinobi over generations grew powerful enough to accomplish it this time, while Kaguya remained the same. How could Madara come to represent the will of Otsutsuki when he himself is but an imitator of them? And coming from a more perfect version of what Madara sought to become in Kaguya, Black Zetsu had to usurp and absorb Madara's will and Madara himself in order to prove that Madara chose his path incorrectly. It was the perfect way to give Madara his proper conclusion. When Madara finally dies, he is out of words and excuses. He has to face the fact that his dream is dead, since no one lives to carry it on. Hashirama's dream might be incomplete, but it is still alive. There is still a chance that it will be fulfilled because he passed down his will the correct way. Hashirama comments that in death, they can come to understand one another, since neither has anything to hide anymore. In death, Madara is released from his struggle and able to find the peace and understanding he thought impossible with Hashirama as war buddies. Naruto will go on to prove to Sasuke that they could reach this point in life, not just death. It may have been possible for Madara and Hashirama to have reached such an understanding, but Madara was undermined by an arrogance that saw him abandon the path of the shinobi, setting in motion a calamity. Considering that overconfidence, I do not see any way for Madara to truly accept defeat beyond the way that it happened. Madara had lost time and time again in the past, but he pushed forward on his own because he was adamant of his plan and his role in the world. The way he was crushingly defeated is what finally created such a moment of reflection. Without events transpiring like this, Madara wouldn't be Madara, and I think he would lose most of what makes him interesting. If he was the final villain, it would elevate him to a status that he does not deserve, and prevent Naruto and Sasuke from facing the source of the shinobi world's cycle of hatred. If he wasn't betrayed by Black Zetsu, it would not symbolize the ramifications of his arrogance and disregard for shinobi history. And if Kaguya were never to come to be, the story would lack a conclusion proving the righteousness of the shinobi path and hope for human existence. As he exists currently, Madara is an incredibly well-written and nuanced character, and you can't improve him by taking away what makes him special and forcing him to fill a different role. Madara's treatment in the end of Naruto might not be loved by his most ardent fans, but is what makes him an important contributor to the themes of Naruto, and one of the most fascinating antagonists that I've ever come across.